If you've been led to believe that Donald Trump isn't doing anything when it comes to coronavirus, I want to correct that. He is doing something. Apparently, he is considering scaling back the national emergency declared earlier this year to control the pandemic, according to healthcare industry officials who have spoken with the administration. I honestly did not think that he could do less, but in doing this, he's doing less. He wants to, like, take away the official designation. And honestly, at this point, I don't even know what that designation is doing to combat it. But at least it's a technical recognition on the part of the U.S. government that this is an emergency. But he's going to take it away. I think the border, the whole wall thing, that might still be an emergency. But the virus that is wreaking havoc apparently soon might not be an emergency, JR.
Yeah, as you were saying, I'm not sure exactly what it does, but I would assume first that it doesn't allow as many avenues to allocate funds, is what I would assume. Usually,
Yeah.
once you declare something emergency or a certain level of importance in this country, you probably have more avenues to put money towards it, and that's always the first thing we think about when it comes to politicians, and especially this one is how can I keep money for things that I want and then not do it for the American people. So that's probably I think one part of it. Another part of it is pure Donald Trump, which is probably his primary thought is if I no longer declare it much of an emergency, it won't be an emergency anymore and it'll go away. Yeah. That's how he thinks. I mean, it's illustrative in the fact that he keeps saying that if we limit our testing, we'll have fewer numbers. That's his logic. So he's like, if I call it no longer an emergency, emergency over.
Yeah.
That's how he thinks.
Maybe it's that magical thinking on the part of him. But now, look, to be fair, Kayleigh McEnany says, I just spoke with the president. He said, we are not looking at lifting the national emergency declarations, which, you know, you can take that to the bank because obviously they're not going to lie to us. But in response to that, one industry official who asked not to be identified to avoid jeopardizing relationship with the administration said it was very much under discussion. Mm-hmm. And I think everyone watching this understands that, yeah, like anything you can imagine when it comes to coronavirus, anything to jeopardize our ability to fight back against it is under discussion. And it's happening at a time where California passed 5,000 or 6,000 cases on the last recorded day. Florida, I just saw a super chat from Bradley Sauter, said 5,500 cases in Florida today. Happy to be in the next epicenter. Maybe we should just stop testing. Oh, and Matt Gaetz is a tool. Yeah, I mean, we're seeing record numbers. Texas jumped up again, too. And this is what they're considering doing. Pretending that it doesn't exist.
Yeah, it checks out. It's just the way it works. As long as you say it's not a problem, then it's no longer a problem, or at least it'll stop making us look bad, or it'll convince enough people to then go back to a certain degree of work. That could be the third option. It's like It's no longer an emergency. That's why we have to reopen even more quickly than we have been already, with get people back into the work without any kind of full protocol as to way to do it, and then sacrifice more people's lives. Who cares?
Yeah, and so here's the thing. While Trump is going to pretend that it doesn't exist, that if you just close your eyes, then Corona can't get you, the rest of the world is acknowledging how bad the situation is in the U.S., and here's a great demonstration of it. The European Union is preparing to allow travelers from dozens of countries into the 27-member nation bloc starting on July 1st. So that's good news. They think they've got a little bit of a handle on it. They're going to start letting international travelers in. 2 draft lists of countries from where tourists and business travelers will be able to travel to the EU this summer include countries with both lower infection rates and slightly higher rates than the bloc members' countries. So they're figuring out which countries it's acceptable to have travelers come from based on their success in combating coronavirus. Unfortunately for the U.S., with 107 new COVID-19 infections per 100,000 people over the past 2 weeks, the U.S. is far from qualifying. The EU's 14-day average for new cases is just 16. Compared to 107, 16. The U.S. is joined by Brazil and Russia on the list of countries from where travelers will not be allowed into the EU if the draft rules are made official next week. And honestly, if they allow us in, then there's no reason to have any qualifications whatsoever. I think, honestly, Brazil might be the only country that's worse right now. So the EU is recognizing it. We can stick our fingers in our ears and pretend that, you know, we don't know what's going on. But the EU is looking at the cases here and saying, we don't want the US to reinfect us.
Another case and another a pushback on what Trump pushed when he was trying to run for president is that we're the laughingstock of the world. Our international relations have been weakened. Everyone thinks that we're sorry. Everyone's, turning on America. All those things are happening since he's been in office. And it's not just because they don't like his face. It's because his policies have put us in a position that have forced other countries to react this way. You notice that declaration didn't say, hey, limiting travel of Americans coming to any of these countries because Donald Trump is the president. That's not what was said. It was based in a gauge that they have to limit infections and actually protect themselves and the people that are there. So if your country doesn't fit those parameters anymore, you're out. That's just the way it is. But we can, in our centrist, insular way, we can think they just don't like us. They hate us because they hate us, as Joe Scarborough famously said. We don't think critically enough to go, hey, why is this happening? And how did we get here? It's just they don't like Americans because we're better than them. Well, apparently they don't need us because apparently our disease is just too good. And they want to make sure that we don't keep spreading it their way.
Yeah, I guarantee that Trump in the next day or two will tweet something exactly to the effect of what you're saying. He's going to attack New York, Connecticut, and New Jersey for blocking, people, for quarantining people who come in from more infected parts of the U.S. And he's definitely, you're right, he's going to attack the EU for saying they just hate us, or look, it's just our testing that caused this. Although, again, when you look at the actual analysis of the rising cases, it is not being driven primarily by an increase in testing. That does not account for how fast things are rising. And we keep saying that, and it doesn't seem to be getting through to people, but I will say it a million more times. It is not just because of more testing.
Yeah, humility is something that we absolutely don't teach our children in this country. I'm talking, of course, in a general basis. We tell our kids from birth, you're an American. You're better than everyone else. Your flag is better than everyone else. Your anthem is better than everyone else. Your economic system is better than everyone else. And everything that happens here is better. And then we find out many people who discover the difference are the ones who travel and go, wow, it's really nice somewhere else.
Yeah.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.